tonight's big stories. China responds to President Marcos calling them a growing threat and says they're no threat, and that actually the escalation in the South China Sea is because of the Philippines' provocations.
Government officials signed the implementing rules and regulations of the PPP Code, throwing open the door for the private sector to participate in some of the country's biggest infra projects.
And we'll be speaking to newly minted FEU head coach Sean Chambers about his decision to spearhead the Tamaraws next season or next UAAP season and what his strategy is going to be.
Welcome to the show. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Riza Diaz.
And I'm Sean Yao.
Okay, first up, an update on the physical condition of President Marcos and First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos. So the Presidential Communications Office says the first couple is continuing to experience flu-like symptoms, but with improvements and both have stable vital signs. They've been advised to continue their medication and to rest until full recovery. The PCO added that the president continues to work in his residence, handling correspondence and directives within medical advice. He anticipates resuming full public engagement soon per his physician's clearance. The first couple developed flu-like symptoms following a number of foreign trips in the past few weeks, the last trip being to Germany and the Czech Republic. Marcos had to cancel actually a forum with the Foreign Correspondents Association of the Philippines today.
In other news, Philippine scientists have made their way to the Sandy Cay in the West Philippine Sea for marine research. The media is also there to cover, including two of our very own. We have, of course, Gretchen Ho, who is going to join us live. We also have Mary Monreyes over there. Hi, Gretch! Kamusta?
Hi, magandang gabi, Sean, Regina, and Riza. A good evening to all of you from Puerto Princesa in Palawan. We are off to a different part of the Kalayaan group of islands, this time around to Pag-asa Island. Now, the Philippine Coast Guard, together with the Bureau of Fish and Aquatic Resources, UP Institute of Biology and Fisheries Research, and Development Institute, announced the beginning of their two-day maritime resource assessment today. Following reports of dead coral reefs on the Sandy Cay back in September of last year, the goal of this assessment is to be able to determine the causes, understand the water terrain, and map out the biodiversity in our reefs. Now, if you recall, there have been allegations of reclamation activities by China on the Sandy Cay too. That's a sandbar just 3 kilometers off Pag-asa Island. And that's why it's valuable to be able to conduct this assessment. As Philippine Coast Guard spokesperson Jay Tariela says, it is important to ground our assertions on factual and scientific evidence. Now, Sandy Cay 1 and 2 are on the agenda for today, while Sandy Cay 3 and 4 will be for tomorrow. Afterwards, they will release results on the fish visual census, basic water parameters, a biochemical assessment, and an environmental assessment. Now, Sean, Regina, and Riza, every time we talk about a certain area in the West Philippine Sea, we have to get down to specifics of territorial claims. Pag-asa Island is actually outside the country's exclusive economic zone. That's right, nasa labas po siya ng ating EEZ or farther than 200 nautical miles. But the basis to our claims for it lie in our occupation of that area since 1971 that was under President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. It also is not an island, but a rock, as an island is described as capable of sustaining human habitation or economic life on their own. While a rock, according to the arbitral ruling, does not generate its own EEZ, ibig sabihin wala siyang exclusive economic zone sa 200 nautical miles, it does, as they say in the ruling, generate its own 12 nautical mile territorial sea, of which the Sandy Cays 1, 2, 3, and 4 are part of. And PCG Commodore Tariela said these cays are important in light of securing our 12 nautical mile territorial sea. Kasi nga naman, kapag naokupa ng China yung isa sa mga case na yan, magkakaroon tayo ng overlapping claims doon. But ina-emphasize nga ni Commodore Tariela that this is not for occupation. The purposes are for security. Now, 2 teams of 4 comprising of marine biologists and researchers, will dive in for the effort. It is going to be a little bit complicated, Sean, Regina, and Riza, because as we know, there are a lot of Chinese maritime militia vessels in the area. There's also some sightings of Chinese Coast Guard and Chinese Navy vessels. So this isn't going to be easy, but it's a job worth fighting for. And we will be seeing the results of that, hopefully, by tomorrow at the end of the 2-day Maritime Resource Assessment. Sean?
All right, so again, quick.
Wait, but you joined the plane, Gretch.
I did
Okay.
join the plane, and I did see the maritime militia vessels. They are exactly like we see them in the radars. I wish I could count, but they're really like a flock. Compared to our own vessels, medyo konti talaga. And it's actually a very beautiful sight, to be honest with you. Seeing
sure.
that from up
Oo nga,
there.
we're looking-
Ang ganda, napakaganda.
We're looking at your videos. Ang ganda. From
Bukas
up above.
You're right. Bukas, Gretch, can you go over at least what you can discuss with us? Ano yung what's on the agenda? And also on our part, what can we expect from this adventure, this journey that you all have undertaken today?
Okay, to be very honest with you, we are not allowed to, say what has been seen in terms of the marine resources and the maritime assessment, because they want to be very careful on giving judgments or premature analysis on this, as we know that we have to base it on scientific evidence, so it will take a little bit of time. I will give you some clues, though. They say that some of the coral reefs that you see, yes, they are dead. Pag puti, bleached, dead na yon. Sabi nila, iba yung coral reefs doon sa malalim. Yung nakikita ninyo doon sa pile na yon, nakikita siya doon sa may shallow part. Pero there are some reefs in the shallow part under the water that is not within the pile. So they're going to have to piece that together. So it's going to be, quite a process, a long process. We have to be very, very careful about our assertions, as we mentioned. But this is the approach that they're taking, scientific, factual evidence to assert and to be able to make the right judgments on what's been happening down
That's
there.
very good to
Right,
hear.
for sure. I mean, when you talk about research, alam mo na yung sunod dyan eh. It's gonna be careful, it's gonna be thorough, and it's not gonna be quick. Well, maraming
But I
salamat.
have to note though that they did get marine biologists for this. So expect to see a lot of data on biodiversity. But I think they have not gotten a marine geologist down here, so we can't get data. And they're very careful also about saying what's been reclaimed or if it's actually moving towards that direction. So marine biologist muna, yan muna ang first step for this maritime resource assessment.
All right, exciting. Good to know what's under there. Good to see finally that we're trying to find out. Well, thank you so much for giving us that lengthy update, and do keep safe out there, Gretch.
Very important distinction that she said there. Pag-asa is not an island according to
Yes.
the arbitral ruling. I don't think a lot of people know that it's a rock, actually. As a rock, it has no, you cannot have an easy,
Around it.
exclusive economic zone around it. So that's a very good clarification from Gretchen.
Right. Meanwhile, China has responded to President Bongbong Marcos saying Beijing is a growing threat to the Philippines. Recall that Marcos said that in an exclusive interview with Bloomberg yesterday, wherein he also said he's not poking the bear, meaning we're not deliberately trying to provoke Beijing. Anyway, the Chinese Foreign Ministry responded with China's territorial sovereignty and maritime rights and interests in the South China Sea are solidly grounded in international law and pose no threat to any country. The Foreign Ministry added that the recently escalated situation in the South China Sea is because of the Philippines' infringements and provocations, as well as disinformation misleading the international community. Meanwhile, it turns out Chinese nationals were previously recruited to the Philippine Coast Guard. At least 36 Chinese nationals were reportedly hired to be part of PCG's auxiliary force, but they've since been delisted. This is what PCG officials told the House hearing on Wednesday. Now, despite the delisting, some House lawmakers expressed concern about possible espionage.
These Chinese who have been a member of the auxiliary of the Coast Guard have been performing perhaps spying duties dito sa atin and in the guise of being auxiliary members of the Coast Guard.
Akala ko nga sa pelikula lang nangyayari yung ganung mga bagay, di ba? The agency na involved sa pagprotekta ng West Philippine Sea, parang double whammy naman tayo doon, di ba? Bakit sila nakapasok? Sino yung mga nagpahintulot, who turned a blind eye?
In their defense, the PCG said these Chinese nationals were hired back when there was still no apparent maritime conflict with China. And despite their 2 to 3 year stay with the agency, these foreign auxiliary force members were only assigned to humanitarian aid operations.
Nung nag-apply itong mga to, nung 2015, wala pang issue sa West Philippine Sea masyado. Kaya ito'y may mga clearance kaming kinuha noon, nag-decide si Admiral Gaban na sila po ay tanggalin muna itong mga Chinese businessman na na-recruit po ng Philippine Coast Guard Auxiliary ay walang anumang partisipasyon po sa operasyon ng Philippine Coast Guard at wala rin silang direct access sa mga sensitibong areas ng Philippine Coast Guard. Ang trabaho lang po nila ay pagka po may mga humanitarian assistance at sila po ay nagbibigay ng mga donasyon. Wala po tayong matibay na basihan para maakusahan silang mga Chinese spies.
Despite this, several lawmakers were unconvinced. They said someone has to be held accountable for the potential threat this brings to our national security. The Senate is also now considering its own investigation.
Sa akin lang, hindi maganda. Hindi maganda dahil hindi naman sila Pilipino. Bakit bigyan natin sila ng opportunity na makasuot ng uniforme ng Philippine Coast Guard na hindi naman pa sila Pilipino?
Scary na nga yung fact na may ganun karaming mga Chinese nationals na nasa PCG. Pero mas scary po yung fact na may mga enablers sila mismo sa hanay ng pamahalaan na mga kapwa natin Pilipino. Kaya talaga hindi dapat ito palampasin.
Government officials have signed the implementing rules and regulations of the Public-Private Partnership Code, or PPP Code. It was just in December last year that President Marcos signed into law the PPP Code, which seeks to institutionalize how PPPs are carried out both at the national and local levels. The IRR sets down the framework for that. On hand to sign it today were NEDA Secretary Arsenio Balisacan, PPP Center Executive Director Cynthia Hernandez, Finance Undersecretary Catherine Fong, and other officials from the DOJ, DBM, and DILG. In his speech, Balisacan emphasized the urgent need for the private sector to help with infrastructure, given the Philippines has been left behind by its ASEAN neighbors.
It's really a game changer. I can't overemphasize that or underemphasize it. Because given the fiscal space you have, it's the only way or one of the best ways we can push forward our infrastructure and socio-economic transformation in as fast as we can. You know and appreciate very well we've been left behind by our neighbors. And this is a moment for us to speed up the work and catch up with our very vibrant members of the ASEAN region.
The Marcos administration has laid out 185 infrastructure flagship projects, or IFPs, worth more than 9 trillion pesos. Around 45 of those are PPPs. The new code improves upon the Build, Operate, Transfer law, which was last amended in 1994. And its main objective this time is to accelerate the delivery of affordable, accessible, and efficient public services. The PPP Center says it's currently already processing nearly 24 solicited projects, and executives say that this IRR should help realize more high-quality infrastructure.
What the law and the IRR did actually was to lay down the processes from development all the way to the actual contract signing and even during the implementation, and filled up those gaps, those steps that didn't have timeline before now have deadlines so that all implementing agencies are guided.
We are optimistic that this updated policy framework will strengthen the country's investment ecosystem, fostering stability and predictability for collaboration on high-impact infrastructure projects.
But before he got to the signing event, Secretary Balisacan actually had a bit of a misadventure. He got stuck together with his staff in the elevator of the mega tower in Ortigas City where the event was being held. As you can see in the pictures, in the end, they had to climb out through a partial opening and in between floors. Balisacan said it was the longest elevator ride in my life, but that he was thankful that they were all safe. Okay, I live
My worst
on a
nightmare.
high-rise building, and I can tell you it is a very scary thing to be stuck inside an elevator. So my question is, now we have a PPP code. Do we have an elevator code too?
I'm not sure if there's a code, but there's definitely
They're building laws,
yeah,
actually.
and there's
Standard.
Yes,
And there is
yes.
like a little certificate. It's usually laminated and glued to the wall of your lift. And if you look at it, it says the date. So I just try to check.
Of the last
Inspection.
check, last inspection.
Right.
There isn't one in mine, by the way. Maybe that's why we constantly have elevator problems in my building, and it's a high-rise, like I said. I've known one of my daughter's friends that got stuck inside with the yaya, and it was my friend's worst nightmare because she didn't know what to do, even though it's just for a few minutes, right? Now it's very scary.
It's dangerous.
It's
really
dangerous and
It's
scary. So
I mean, like at best, it's funny and it's a little bit claustrophobic. At worst, it could be a really bad accident.
exactly. So, that's a wake-up call for the mega tower, I guess, with the NEDA secretary getting stuck. Anyways, this story is important because it's another area where President Marcos has really diverged from President Duterte, has gone in the completely opposite direction. With under President Duterte, of course, he initially pushed for ODAs, official development aid, especially from China, to fund some of the big-ticket infrastructure like the Mindanao Railway project, which, as we know, to this day has not broken ground kasi China never, in the end, never
The promise.
never came through on the
official
promise
aid,
for ODA.
The aid that was a promise did not materialize.
Yes.
And that's a lot of the things that we talk about here, like pledges, promises. We're like,
Does it ever see the light of day?
Agreements,
we're really not cynical. It's just that we have been hurt in the past.
Hurt na hurt ka sa hindi natuloy yung Tagum Davao Digos Railway. Because that was the first phase, right? It was supposed to have broken ground 2022. Rather, it was supposed to have started construction 2022.
That was a big one, but there were a lot of smaller infra projects that people were looking forward to that also did not come to fruition.
Exactly.
So,
build. So that was one of the key, the flagship.
yes. But
right?
now it's build better more.
Build better more. So we will see if itong PPP strategy is going to pay off, and maybe hopefully in this administration, hopefully we'll see the first railway in Mindanao.
And this one, the implementing rules and regulation takes effect soon, April 6th.
Just like
They
a
have
little bit
moved
after
very
the Holy Week.
Right.
We're going to pause for a very quick break right now, but right after that, Senator Win Gatchalian expresses concern over more than 19,000 so-called ghost students listed in the Education Department's voucher program. The details when we return. Stay with us.
Welcome back. You're still watching The Big Story here on One News.
Now, ladies, have you heard of the term ghost students?
Well, I've heard of a lot of ghosts, so I can imagine what a ghost student is.
This is not a horror story, though. Ghost students. It's the term that's used to describe thousands of beneficiaries of DepEd's voucher program that are apparently undocumented. Camille Samonte has the details on that. Camille, tell us about it.
That's right, Riza. It was revealed at a Senate hearing that thousands of private school students benefiting from the government's voucher program are undocumented or cannot be found. To be exact, 19,139 of these undocumented students were recorded in school years 2021 to 2023. This data was presented during the Senate Committee on Basic Education hearing on Wednesday in relation to a DepEd program called Expanded Government Assistance to Students and Teachers in Private Education, or EGASP program of DepEd. Under the program, vouchers worth 14 to 22,000 pesos are provided to beneficiaries for their enrollment to private schools. This is the government's way of easing congestion in public schools. With this, Committee Chairman Senator Win Gatchalian questioned the huge number of undocumented students under the program.
I'm trying to find out whether there's intention to defraud government.
But the Private Education Assistance Committee, or PEAC, explains that some private schools have failed to submit requirements to prove the legitimacy of the voucher program's beneficiaries, or VPBS.
In other words, they're billing the government, but they cannot present documents to prove the existence of those students. So those are, can I call them literally ghost students?
Right now, we call them kasi undocumented VPBs.
Because of this discovery, some private schools will have to refund almost 230 million pesos to the government.
One school can rack up to 80 million in terms of refund. How do we, what is the, naipon, or the magnitude of students? Baka there is really an intention to defraud government, meaning they put different students, the same name, or maybe some of them are non-existing students.
Apart from this, the report of the Commission on Audit shows that over 100 senior high school students from school year 2016 to 2017 are also considered ghost students. And that's because they receive a voucher from DepEd twice in just 1 year. PEAC now believes that some private schools are trying to earn from the DepEd voucher program.
We've received anecdotal reports coming from the field that there are schools that are trying to game the voucher program. I think for some schools that have less than 10 or 1 out of 100 VPBs, I think this may be a mistake, an honest mistake from the school. But when the numbers reach hundreds, this is really a significant issue.
Gatchalian also believes this is the case. He suspects that some private schools may have been tempted to tamper with the list of beneficiaries to receive more money from the government. Gatchalian also flagged the lack of guidelines to determine who is qualified to become a beneficiary. The senator says the program should benefit those who are most in need financially, but it appears that many beneficiaries come from financially capable families. Riza, as for the Education Department, the agency said they have become more careful in implementing this program. They say they hold off payments to private schools if the voucher receipts do not match their records. Riza?
Thank you, Camille Samonte.
All right, let's check in on what's going on with charter change. The ball is now in the Senate's court after the House approved the resolution on economic cha-cha and the bill seeking to revoke SMNI's franchise. But unlike lower house lawmakers, it seems that senators are in no hurry to pass these measures. Senate Electoral Reforms Panel Chairperson Amy Marcos said the lower house passing RBH 7 should not affect the pace and manner by which Senate conducts deliberations for RBH 6. She says it is also important to address the voting procedure for when they gather as a constituent assembly, something that the two chambers have yet to agree on. Committee on Public Services Chairperson Grace Poe also wants to take time to study the bill seeking to revoke SMNI's franchise. Senator Poe says the proposal should be subjected to utmost scrutiny since it could set a precedent for future legislative franchises.
Speaking of Kibuloy, SMNI, Davao Police say they're ready to assist the Senate Sergeant-at-Arms who's been tasked to serve and arrest the embattled church leader after he repeatedly snubbed Senate hearings.
Ito naman pong warrant of arrest kay Pastor Kibuloy from the Senate. Ang mag-e-effect po nito ay yung Sergeant of Arms. Mag-a-assist lang po ang Philippine National Police sa pag-serve po ng warrant of arrest. And then after po nun, hindi po siya malalagay sa custody ng PNP. Diretso po siya dun sa Senado po.
So procedure is Sergeant-at-Arms ang magsaserve and mag-a-arrest. They just wanted to clarify that as the police, they're there to serve as reinforcement, pero it's not them who's gonna be, barging into the house to serve.
Right. And as for where the actual arrest warrant is, well, according to Senator Rizzo Ontiveros, yung arrest order is currently on the way to Davao through the Sergeant Senate-at-Arms, as Reg has explained. And sabi nga, yun nga, narinig natin yung soundbite of the Davao Police saying we are ready to assist the Sergeant-at-Arms when him and the warrant finally get there.
Our reporter, si Mon Gualvez, actually was at Prayer Mountain. Sinubukan nilang pumasok. And meron, di ba? Meron din tayong nakuha from Mon. Can we actually play it? Sige, let's try to hear that.
Pwede ba pumasok, sir? Pumasok?
Pwede pumasok?
Wala kayo,
Wala. Hindi pwede. Hindi siya open sa public ngayon. Hindi po open sa public.
Tagal na, naka-private to.
Wait, trivia. Dati open nga siya sa public. You just have to pay an entrance fee to go up there.
This is Prayer Mountain?
Yes, Prayer Mountain. Not Glory Mountain, ha?
Tamayong
Different.
Prayer Mountain, Tamayong Davao City.
So lumalabas, it's been closed na daw for months.
Yeah, but it is private property and it's within their right naman to close it off. Pero marami nga nagpa-prenup doon, I think. Apart from that, no, guys, si Mon, our reporter, Mon Gualvez, also went to KJC, or Kingdom of Jesus Christ, Kingdom. Yan, nakikita nyo ngayon. Yan yung dome. Sa tabi lang yan nung Prayer Mountain. Pero hindi rin daw sila pinayagan. Security was very tight according to Mon and our team. Umabot pa nga daw sa point na kinukuhanan sila ng video and pictures. So, sila naman yung kita natin, yung guard na kinukunan sila ng video and pictures.
Kingdom.
Kingdom.
That's what they call it.
Yes.
Ang cute naman, Kingdom.
And then may school pa siya sa tabi niya.
Somebody's taking their pictures naman. For documentation, I guess.
Well, the pastor, or Apollo Kibuloy's camp, is refusing to take any interviews in the meantime, saying this was already agreed upon with their lawyers at their last meeting. So there, the attorney of Apollo Kibuloy gave that statement.
Well, here's a heads up for the public, especially, as parents. Quezon City has declared an outbreak of whooping cough or pertussis following an increase in the cases of the contagious respiratory infection. Now, just a quick background, pertussis or whooping cough, or in Filipino, ubong dalahit or Pirina, is a highly contagious bacterial respiratory infection that causes influenza-like symptoms of mild fever, colds, and coughs of up to 7 to 10 days after exposure. Now, this cough, in typical cases, will develop into a characteristic hacking cough. Pertussis can be treated by antibiotics, but it is best prevented through vaccination. Now, based on the data from the Quezon City LGU, cases of pertussis have already hit 23 from January till March 20. 4 have died from the infection. Last year, there were just 3 recorded deaths. Now, according to Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte, they are having a hard time combating the disease, especially since vaccine stocks are running low. Now, one solution in the meantime is isolating those afflicted for 5 days.
The scarcity of the vaccine is what makes this an outbreak, because we now need the full cooperation of our Q citizens to participate in ensuring na hindi na kumalat ang sakit na ito. We are mobilizing our own resources towards procuring the needed vaccines to keep our children safe until such time as the DOH supply arrives dahil sila po ay naubusan.
In total, the number of pertussis cases recorded in the entire country in the first 10 weeks of the year has risen to 453. This is significantly higher compared to previous years. The health department currently does not have stock of the pertussis vaccine, but supply is expected by May. Now, apart from infants, adults are also susceptible to pertussis. While waiting for the vaccine, the public is reminded to wear wear face masks and to isolate if they test positive for the infection.
Very good reminder.
Face masks should always
And
be in your
isolate, of
bag.
course, right?
Right.
Yeah,
If you feel you have something to get a checkup.
Especially the children.
But also
don't
this-
send them to school.
Yes, but also the vaccinations. I know this was already like a thing of the past before. The fact that there's actually whooping cough, and ang tanda ko na. I mean, it means check on your like booster shots or what you haven't completed, especially post-pandemic.
Well, up next, Far Eastern University continues its rebuild ahead of the upcoming UAAP season. We'll be speaking with the Tamaraws' new head coach, Sean Chambers, when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back. You're watching the big story here on One News. Iconic PBA import Sean Chambers has been appointed as the new head coach of Far Eastern University. Following a successful career in the PBA, Chambers will now embark on his first head coaching role in the Philippines. The PBA legend expressed his excitement about returning to the Philippines, a place he considers his second home. He brings with him extensive experience in his advocacies around education, coaching, and mentoring youth. Chambers will be succeeding Denok Miranda, who led the team during the UAAP Season 86 men's basketball tournament. Last season, the Tamaraws ended with a 3-11 record, missing out on a Final Four spot for the second year in a row. FEU is the winningest men's basketball program in the UAAP with 20 titles, but the Tamaraws have not won since season 78. Didn't mean to rub it in. That's just how the line was written.
She's clearly not a Tamaraw.
Numbers don't lie.
I'm just saying, it's a fact. Sorry, I didn't mean to rub it in.
So, who better to talk about, the plans for the FEU Tamaraws than Mr. 100% himself? We have with us live via Zoom, All the way from California, the newly appointed FEU head coach, Coach Sean Chambers. Good morning there. Good evening from here. Thank you for joining us in the big story.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to hear that they have 20 championships at this point, and of course, you know that's my number with Alaska, and I didn't even know this, and my number's retired. So this is all coming together very nicely.
Coach, let's talk about how did this came about. Because our impression is you're in the States. So did you apply for the coaching job for FEU? How did it come to fruition?
So I don't know if a lot of you guys know I've been back to the country back during Thanksgiving break, and before that was there helping out with talking text for 2 weeks with my best friend Jolas. So while I was there in the country, and I was able to go watch a couple of UAP games with my other best friend Dickie Backman. And while I was attending one of the games, boss Anton Montanola sees me at one of the games and he wanted to have a conversation with me. The original ideal was that I would come in and be kind of like a player development. And I was very intrigued with that opportunity. We just didn't have a real set plan how to make it work. But we were originally set and talked about coming in and being like a player development, working with the lower level teams, the high school teams, and then also the men's team. So we ended up having a meeting before I left back to the States during Thanksgiving break. And they brought in the heavy hitter. They brought in no other than Johnny A to come have a conversation with me to try to send the deal in. So once Johnny A was in the meeting, it was like pretty much, what do you need me to do? I'll make it work. You know, I just got to take care of some things here in the States. So it was pretty cool. So then what happened was during Christmas, I had a meeting with Mark Molina, who's been amazing. By the way, Boss Anton during this whole process has been incredible, only second to WSU, Wilfred Uitensu, when it comes to being straightforward and being very communication-wise, open with me about the whole process. So I met with Mark during Christmas break, and then we had a discussion. And what happened after that, about a week later, 2 weeks later, he mentioned that Coach Denog and we've been communicating that Coach Denog just had an amazing appreciation about my career in the Philippines, my knowledge about basketball, and then how much like the educational piece is important to me when it comes to the university. So Coach Denog was asked the university, Boss Antel, could he be my understudy for a couple of years?
Okay.
So this doesn't happen without Coach Denog willing to step aside and say, hey, I really love Sean. I love what he brings to the table. He's very dynamic. He loves the country. He loves the people. And the people in the Philippines love him back. I think this is a win-win for all of us. We can get him. But let's make him the head coach and let me assist him, and I grow in my basketball career as a coach.
How long did it take you to make the decision to say yes?
Within 20 minutes when they presented it to me, I was like, oh my God. I mean, but I was kind of blindsided because I didn't know that's what we were going to have a meeting about. So I was kind of shook by it. So then, of course, I reached out to Tim Cone, asked his opinion, and I reached out to Jojo Lastimoso and Dickie Bachman. And then really the one who kind of also I needed the final blessing was for me was WSU. So I talked to all my guys, and when I was able to talk to Fred kind of laid down a lot of guidelines that he wanted to see because Fred is very protective of me. He's very protective of my career there. He's very protective of what I've achieved outside of basketball back here in the States. And I thank him so much for always being in my corner and supporting me, even 21 years after my retiring for basketball. So those guys are very big to me. They're very important in this decision. And but when Fred said, okay, I think this is the right move for you, because there were other offers that he did not agree to and he wouldn't sign off, even though it's ultimately my final decision. But Mr. Uitensu was very important to me in this process.
Coach, so you mentioned Boss Fred, Dickie, Johnny A. These are the ingredients of the Grand Slam that Alaska won, and your 6 championships as a player. No doubt, as an import.
And then we had Jeffrey Cuddy also in that message too. So
and Jojo Lastimosa. But
Yeah.
you're coming into an FEU program that is not, as successful, a 3-11 record in the last season. What are you looking into doing and reinforcing to get that winning culture back?
I think you should start with the basics, right? Just simplify things and get down to the real solid fundamentals of the basketball game. I've watched over maybe 20, 25 of their basketball games from last year, preseason stuff. We're not far off as a team. We're not far off as a university representing the university the right way. But there's some things we can simplify to make things a little bit easier for the guys, and that's how you find success. Simplicity is the key to success. And then I think we also move to our team culture and climate. We have to be a team that's not only playing together, but we're playing for each other. Basically, the Alaska Aces model. It was a we, not me mentality when it came to the Alaska Aces. So that's going to be important to me. And I just think making the little things important. Again, small things in basketball like boxing out, making the right passes, getting out, running the court, and helping solid basketball defense is going to be so important. Because if you look at some of the games last year, I think they were like within 10 to 15 points every game. So we were close. We were there. It's just a couple of the things that we can fix. And ultimately, I also want them to really play with a heart for the university and what it really is providing for them outside of basketball.
Right, Coach.
It's always been my dream to be in the UAP. We want to make sure that our love for the university and our love for all the fans and our love for our student body is going to be close. That's who we're playing for. Not only ourselves, but we're going to be playing for FEU Tamaraws family.
Coach, everyone here is very familiar with who you are in the PBA and your accomplishments. Best import, always very efficient, always delivering. Maybe you were called as not too flashy, but everyone knows that you're efficient. Is that the same kind of strategy and playing style that you're going to bring to FEU? And also, I was actually really curious if this was the first time you were invited to coach any team here in the Philippines, because I find that kind of hard to believe.
So it's been crazy, really, to be honest. I've received, I'm going to say three to four offers since, let me see, about June last summer. And like I said, Mr. Uitensa was pretty important to me in some of these offers because some of them he didn't think they were a very safe offer for me. Like he thought I can get over there and be stepping away from my position as a dean of students here, and I can find myself in a situation where it's not meant to be successful. So he wanted me to be in a place where there was going to be good business structure, a solid foundation, what they want for the basketball program, and the expectations were legitimate. So, but I did get 2 offers from PBA teams, and I had one other UAAP team that was going after me really since last May or June.
Okay, Coach, players prepare coming into the ball game. Coaches prepare
Sure.
too. So you coming from, another country to the Philippines, coaching.
And also, did you say you were a dean, a college dean right now?
He's an educator now in the U.S. But
you're going to be the FEU boys are going to be
my question,
then.
these are younger players than what you've last been around with professionally in the
that's a good
PBA.
point.
These are younger boys. How are you, preparing, like mindset-wise, coming into this role? Because you're going to be like one way or another, like a dad, a coach, and everything all in one.
Maybe a dean
Yes.
too.
And a dean.
I have my own son who's 17 right now, about to be 18. He's heading to University of Oregon this summer. So this also made it work for me that I was my son is now heading to college. As you know, I've been coaching girls basketball here for the past 20 years and also working with some of the high school boys teams as well here in Sacramento. So we've got one of the most successful girls program in all of the country when it comes to our travel team, JBS basketball, as well as a high school team. So it all translates. So, and I also believe the fact that Coach Tim always told me the terminology, the art of hanging around. So I'm usually back in the country once or twice a year. But the pandemic has kept me back for a while. So now that the pandemic has been lifted, I actually was back in the country in the Philippines and 2 weeks in October, and then another 10 days in November. So I've been consistently watching the success of the UAP and the UAP teams, what makes them successful. So I'm not naive by one bit of the challenge that I have in front of me, my coaching staff, what we have ahead of us, and the overall team in the university. But my moniker is Mr. 100% for a reason. As I told the team when I met them, I promise you this, I have much respect for Tab and Topek and all the other coaches in the league. But I promise them nobody's going to outwork me. I'm going to be the hardest working coach in the Philippines.
Oh, hey, I don't think you've actually mentioned when you're actually starting here. When are you moving? Boots on the ground.
I actually fly out next Saturday.
Oh, wow, that's pretty soon.
That's real soon.
With all your stuff.
But pretty much, I'm going to go back and forth a couple of times. I'll be back home in May for my son's graduation from high school, and then send him off to college. But yeah, we're going to get this ground going, and you know, let's get this thing built. But I'm really appreciative of the coaching staff, what they're doing right now. I've been able to see about 5 or 6 tune-up games they're playing right now, and you know, the Filipino basketball culture is very, very knowledgeable. They do a really good job, and the coaching staff is really solid. So I'm excited to work with all those guys. I just want to put my little flair to the system, and let's see how it works. And we may not be successful early, but we're gonna keep grinding until we figure it out.
So exciting. FEU
Yes.
getting a new coach, and it's time for the Tamaraws to have a shakeup. It's been a while.
Well, as that last line I had to read said, they haven't won since season 78, but Coach has already laid down his strategy. So wait, sorry, you fly out next Saturday and then you start the Monday after? Is that?
I'm hitting the ground running. Yes,
Oh,
that's
okay,
me.
all right.
It's
Practice begins
100%. I'm going right away.
I hope the
Sneakers
Tamaraws
on
are
the ground.
watching.
I know.
Practice begins
Yes.
Monday.
Well, Moraita is very excited to have you, and congratulations to you, Sean, or Coach Sean. I have to get used to calling you Coach Sean now, and we'll check back in, when the UAP is up and running.
Yes. So I'm excited. I'm excited to get with the university. Even as a player, I used to go watch a lot of the UAAP games. And I've always had a dream of mine was to participate and be part of a UAAP program. I'm telling you, it's going to be so like, I probably shed a tear the very first time I can stand at the end of the game, win, lose, or draw, when I can sit there and we do our fight song. Like that has been one of the most incredible things I've always witnessed in the country when it comes for the love of the university and watching the whole crowd stand and support one another when they do their fight song.
Right.
And then lastly, I'm going to get up there and join the drumline team a couple of times during the game.
Right.
It's a really different experience to be a
Exposure.
PBA fan and to
Right.
be a UAAP fan. Like, so different.
Right.
The rivalry, it's insane. It's going to be so exciting.
Well, thank you for
Yeah.
joining us.
And we'll see you here soon.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to being there. Looking forward to all join all my old teammates and see some of the imports that over this, like Justin and guys like that. I'm looking forward to hang out with guys like that and have them come and help us somehow, some way.
All right. We'll see you next week, Coach.
Maraming salamat.
Salamat,
Thank you.
Coach. Right before we go, we have just a little time for our big picture tonight. And this one's exciting as well. For all you cinephiles and history buffs out there and those who missed this in the cinemas, Gomburza will now be available on Netflix beginning April 19. To make their Netflix arrival even more special, the release, April 9. Right, come April 9. And so to make their Netflix arrival even more special, the release date actually falls on, if we know, it's Araw ng Kagitingan on April 9. So saktong-sakto talaga with the subject matter of Gomburza. The movie stars Dante Rivero, Cedric Juan, and Enchong D, with the special participation of Piolo Pascual and Elijah Canlas. The film is directed by Pepe Diokno and produced by Jescom Films, MQuest Ventures in cooperation with CMB Film Services. So, Okay, kung wala pa kayong plano, hindi kayo nakabook ng tickets to go out of town on Araw ng Kagitingan or Day of Valor, you have now something to do on April 9.
Nice.
I just checked. It's Tuesday. I wonder if Monday will be declared a holiday. I'm just wondering. Like,
Holiday
President
economics
Marcos,
is-
you're home sick right now. I'm just
Hear our plea.
no. I'm just if you could make an announcement already, and I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's just a really a joke because we will be here on April 9.
Exactly. It's
And
not
April
like we get
8.
time off. Right? We
Not
still
like
have to
we
do
have
the show.
holidays.
Exactly.
On that little whiny note, that's it for the big story tonight.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.